The woman question: can someone who sold their body still feel love? Let me start with the heaviest question you asked. Can a woman who has sold her body, whether for survival, for money, for reasons we might never fully understand, can she truly experience love? And here's what I want you to think about first: what is love, actually? Is love some pure, untouched thing that lives in a locked box inside us? Like, if you do certain things, the box gets dirty and love can't live there anymore? Or is love something else entirely, something more like a river? Think about a river for a second. A river can get polluted. It can have trash thrown in it. It can run through ugly places, industrial zones, garbage dumps. But here's the thing: the river keeps flowing. And if you clean it up, if you give it time, if you care for it, that same river can become beautiful again. The water that was there before moves on, and new water comes in. Love is like that. When a woman has sold her body, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this, because we need to be honest, society treats her like she's broken. Like she's damaged goods. Like she left the store without a return policy, you know. And that's deeply, deeply unfair. Because here's what selling your body doesn't do: it doesn't remove your heart. Let me tell you something about survival. When someone is in a desperate situation, maybe they have no money, maybe they're feeding children, maybe they escaped something terrible, when survival kicks in, we do things that our ideal self would never do. That doesn't make us monsters. That makes us human. I want you to imagine a woman who worked in that industry. Maybe for years. Maybe she learned to turn off her emotions to get through the day. Maybe she built walls around her heart so thick that she herself started believing nothing could get through. And then one day, someone sees her. Not as a body. Not as a transaction. But as a person. Someone with thoughts, fears, dreams, jokes that make her laugh so hard she snorts. Someone who loves old movies or makes really good pasta or has a weird obsession with collecting vintage teacups. Can she feel love when that happens? Hell yes, she can. Maybe even more intensely than someone who's never had to fight for their humanity. Because she knows what it's like when people don't see you. So when someone finally does, that hits different. The real question isn't whether she can love. The question is, can she trust love? Can she believe it's real and not just another transaction? Can she believe someone wants her, not just access to her? And that's where the healing begins, not in erasing the past, but in building something new despite it. The man question: can someone wake up and just change? Now let's flip it. Can a man who's lived a certain way, maybe he's been with dozens of women, maybe he's treated relationships like a buffet, maybe he's been selfish and non-committal, can that guy wake up one day and genuinely dedicate his life to one woman? The short answer: yes. But it's complicated. Here's the thing about transformation: it's not like in the movies where there's a rainstorm and a dramatic speech and suddenly he's a different person. Real change is slow, awkward, and full of backsliding. But it is possible. And you know what makes it possible? Pain. Not always, but often. A man changes when the cost of staying the same becomes unbearable. Maybe he looks in the mirror one day and doesn't recognize himself. Maybe he loses someone he actually cared about and realizes he destroyed it with his own hands. Maybe he just gets tired of the emptiness, tired of the performance, tired of waking up next to people whose names he barely remembers. That kind of exhaustion can be a gift. Because it creates space. Space to ask, what do I actually want? What would make me feel like my life meant something? And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the answer is, her. I want to build something real with her. Now, can he do it? Can he actually leave behind all the patterns, the habits, the version of himself he's been for years? It depends. It depends on whether he's willing to do the hard, boring work of change. Going to therapy. learning to communicate. Sitting with discomfort instead of running to the next distraction. Proving, through actions, not words, that he's different. Words are cheap. Consistency over time. That's expensive. And that's what proves change. But here's what I find beautiful: the fact that someone can change means we're not imprisoned by our past. We're not just the sum of our worst decisions. There's always a door marked, different path, and sometimes, love is what finally gives us the courage to walk through it. The ownership question: can people with a sexual past claim commitment? Okay, this one gets really sticky. You asked, do people who have openly sexualized themselves have the right to say, I belong to him, or I belong to her? And immediately, I want to challenge the framing. Because, belong, is a loaded word. In healthy love, you don't belong to someone like property. You choose them. Every day. You commit to them. You build a life together. But you're still your own person. So the question becomes, do people with a sexual past have the right to commit to someone? And the answer is, of course they do. But we, society, communities, even they themselves, struggle to accept it. Why? Because we have this weird mental accounting system where we treat sexuality like a resource that gets depleted. Like there's a purity meter, and every sexual experience drains it a little bit. And once it hits zero, you're worthless in the relationship market. That's garbage. Complete garbage. Your capacity to love, to commit, to build a life with someone isn't like a pie where every slice you give away means less for the next person. It doesn't work that way. But here's the harder truth: people with sexual pasts often struggle to commit not because they're incapable, but because they've learned patterns that make intimacy difficult. If you've been with lots of people casually, you might have learned to keep things surface level. You might have trained yourself not to get attached. You might have built a whole identity around sexual freedom that feels threatened by commitment. Breaking those patterns. That's the real work. Not erasing the past, you can't, but learning new ways of being. And here's what I think is important: when someone with a past chooses you, truly chooses you, that's a powerful statement. They've seen options. They've experienced variety. They know what else is out there. And still, they're saying, you. I want you. I'm choosing to build something real with you. That's not less meaningful than someone who commits without that experience. In some ways, it might be more meaningful, because it's an informed choice. The acceptance question: can we accept them when they commit? But even if they can love, even if they can commit, can we accept them? This is where it gets deeply personal. Because acceptance isn't just about the person with the past. It's about the person they're with. If you're dating someone with a sexual history, you're going to have moments, maybe lots of them, where your brain goes to uncomfortable places. You imagine them with other people. You wonder if you measure up. You question whether you're special or just the latest in a line. That's normal. Painful, but normal. And here's what determines whether the relationship survives: can you separate their past from their present? Their past is information. It's context. It's part of their story. But it's not a prophecy. It doesn't dictate their future unless you let it. But I also want to be real with you: some people can't get past it. And that's okay too. Acceptance isn't mandatory. If someone's past genuinely makes you unable to trust them, unable to feel secure, unable to be fully present in the relationship, then maybe you're not the right match for each other. And that's not a moral failing on either side. It's just incompatibility. The problem is when we judge them as less than because of their past. When we treat them like they're unworthy of love, period. When we say, you made those choices, so you deserve to be alone forever. That's cruel. And it's not how human growth works. People deserve the chance to evolve. To learn from mistakes. To become different versions of themselves. And they deserve partners who can see them as they are now, not just as who they used to be. The divorce question: does repeated failure mean incapability? Now you brought up something even more complex. What about people who keep trying and keep failing? Who've been divorced multiple times? Does that mean they can't love, or does it just mean love is really, really hard? Love is hard. Like, really hard. And here's what nobody tells you when you're young and idealistic: most love stories don't work out. Not because people are bad or incapable, but because matching two complicated humans with different wounds, different needs, different communication styles, different trauma responses, that's incredibly difficult. Some people get lucky. They find someone compatible on the first try, and they build something that lasts. But a lot of people don't. They try, they fail, they learn, they try again. Does that make them damaged? Or does it make them experienced? I think it depends on what they learned. If someone has been divorced 3 times and they blame every single ex-partner, if they take zero responsibility, if they keep making the same mistakes, then yeah, maybe they haven't learned anything. Maybe they're not ready. But if someone has been divorced 3 times and they can tell you what went wrong in each relationship, what their part in it was, what they're working on, that person might actually be a really good partner. Because they've done the work. They've looked in the mirror. They know their patterns. Repeated failure doesn't erase the ability to love. But it can create fear. Fear of trusting again. Fear of being vulnerable. Fear that they're fundamentally unlovable. And healing from that takes tremendous courage. The social acceptability question: why are some pasts more acceptable than others? You asked something really sharp. Why are people with multiple divorces sometimes more socially acceptable than, say, sex workers who want to commit? And the answer is hypocrisy. In many societies, especially more conservative ones, we have a weird hierarchy of acceptable sexual pasts. Marriage, even if it failed, acceptable, because at least you tried to do it the right way. Serial monogamy, mostly acceptable, because at least you were with one person at a time. Casual sex, less acceptable, but tolerated if you're young or discreet. Sex work, completely unacceptable, irredeemable, shameful. Why? Because we're obsessed with intention and context. If you slept with 10 people while searching for love, that's seen as noble, you were trying. But if you slept with 10 people for money or pleasure, that's seen as corrupt, you were being transactional or hedonistic. But here's the thing: both groups had sex with multiple people. The difference is just the story we tell about it. And that reveals something important: our moral judgments are often arbitrary and culturally constructed. They're not based on objective harm or capability to love. They're based on which narratives our society values. In some parts of the world, being divorced 3 times would make you an outcast. In others, it barely registers. The same is increasingly true for sex work, casual sex, and other forms of sexual expression. The rules are made up. And they change. The heart of it all: what is love, really? Okay, let's zoom all the way out. Because underneath all these questions is one fundamental issue: what is love, actually? Is love purity? Being untouched, unblemished, approaching the relationship as a blank slate, permanence. Staying together no matter what, making it work even when it's broken, exclusivity. Giving yourself to only one person, forever. Or is love something else? Is it courage? The willingness to be vulnerable even after you've been hurt? Choice. Actively deciding, every day, to show up for someone? Growth. Becoming better humans together than you were apart? Acceptance. Seeing someone fully, past scars, mistakes, and loving them anyway. I think it's the second group. Love isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about saying, I'm a mess, you're a mess, let's be a mess together and try to build something beautiful anyway. The people you're asking about, the sex worker, the reformed playboy, the multiple divorce, they all have something in common: they've lived. They've made mistakes. They've been broken. They know what it's like to fail. And that doesn't make them less capable of love. It might make them more capable. Because they know what they're risking. They know how much it hurts to lose. They know that love isn't a fairy tale, it's a choice you make in the difficult moments, not just the easy ones. Can we redefine love? You ended with the most important question. Maybe the real question is not whether they can love, but whether we are willing to redefine what love, commitment, and worth truly mean. And I think you're exactly right. We need to expand our definition of love to include 1. Love as healing, not just purity. Someone doesn't need to be undamaged to be worthy of love. In fact, loving someone through their healing, and letting them love you through yours, that's some of the deepest stuff there is. 2. Love as growth, not just permanence. Sometimes love means staying. Sometimes it means leaving. Sometimes it means trying again with someone new. The goal isn't to be with one person forever at all costs, it's to keep learning, growing, and treating people with respect. 3. Love as choice, not just feeling. Feelings fade. Attraction fluctuates. What sustains a relationship is the daily choice to show up, to communicate, to work through hard things together. 4. Love as seeing the whole person, not just their past or their potential, not who they used to be. Not who they might become. But who they are right now, in this moment, with all their contradictions. The final word: we're all just trying. Here's what I want to leave you with. The woman who sold her body but dreams of real love. She's trying. The man who wants to leave his past behind and commit. He's trying. The person with multiple divorces who still believes in partnership. They're trying. And trying, really, genuinely trying to connect, to love, to be better, that's all any of us are doing. We're all carrying wounds. We all have chapters we wish we could rewrite. We've all made choices we regret, hurt people we cared about, been hurt by people who said they cared about us. But we keep trying. Because love is the most human thing we do. And maybe the most radical act isn't judging whether someone deserves love based on their past. Maybe it's recognizing that everyone deserves the chance to try. Not a guarantee of success. Not a promise that it'll work out. But the chance to show up, to be vulnerable, to offer their heart and hope someone treats it gently. That's all any of us want, really. So can they love? Yes. Absolutely yes. Can we accept them? That's up to us. And I hope we choose compassion. Thanks for sticking with me through this long, winding conversation. These questions don't have easy answers, but I think asking them, really sitting with the complexity, that's how we become more human.